Managing people isn't just a job. It isn't just a role. It's a delicate, intricate art, one that requires more than strategies or systems. It requires emotional intelligence, awareness, precision, and sometimes a willingness to step out of the spotlight. This might sound counterintuitive in a world obsessed with visibility and validation. But one of the most unconventional, and yet strikingly wise, perspectives on leadership comes from a philosopher who was no stranger to solitude, Arthur Schopenhauer. His philosophy, sometimes the most intelligent thing you can do, is to appear a little less intelligent. Yes, you heard that right. To Schopenhauer, the quiet choice to seem modest, even naive, wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a form of wisdom few dared to practice. He believed that when you shine too brightly, too soon, you don't always attract admiration. You attract resistance. Because while people might respect brilliance, they often fear it. And fear, when mixed with envy, silently hardens into opposition. Schopenhauer learned this not from books, but from life itself. At 19 years old, he received a letter from someone who knew him intimately, his mother. In that letter, she wrote a sentence that pierced deeper than any philosophical critique ever could. "You are intelligent, but you try too hard to prove you know better than everyone else. That doesn't make you helpful." That line shifted something in him. It showed him that knowledge, when brandished like a sword, can cut not just through ignorance, but through connection. It can isolate, intimidate, even alienate. So he changed his approach. He didn't become less intelligent. He became more strategic. He began to move through the world with a new identity, what he called the wise fool. He didn't speak as quickly. He didn't correct as often. He let others feel smart, even when he already knew the answer. He started observing more than explaining. And this wasn't deception, it was mastery. He was learning when to reveal his strength and when to hide it. Because, in truth, revealing your full power too early doesn't strengthen your influence. It weakens it. Why? Because people don't rally behind someone who makes them feel inferior. They rally behind someone who makes them feel important. Schopenhauer knew, if you want people to follow you, they have to feel safe with you. And no one feels safe around someone who's constantly trying to prove they're the smartest person in the room. That's why the most powerful people in history, strategists, leaders, visionaries, rarely rushed to show their hand. They listened, they watched, they waited. Just as the ancient strategist Sun Tzu said, "When you are strong, appear weak. When you are ready to strike, seem still." But here's the truth, this isn't just a tactic for war. It's a principle for life. It applies to boardroom meetings, family discussions, heated arguments, even the subtlest moments in relationships. The greatest strength isn't always in what you say, it's in what you choose not to say. Sometimes silence is the loudest voice in the room. Gandhi once said, "If what you're about to say isn't more beautiful than silence, don't say it." Leadership, Schopenhauer believed, was about timing. It wasn't about dominating the space, it was about knowing when to speak, and perhaps even more importantly, when not to. In every room, there will be voices that shout. But the one who listens, truly listens, is often the one others grow to respect in silence. And that is the essence of being the wise fool. It's not about pretending to be ignorant. It's about understanding the strength of humility. It's about stepping back, not to be overlooked, but to allow others to rise. And in doing so, you rise with them. Sometimes holding back a correction isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the quiet discipline of knowing that growth happens not when people are told, but when they realize. So instead of saying, "You're wrong," you offer a gentle question. Instead of taking the stage, you shine the light on someone else. Instead of interrupting with your knowledge, you allow others to speak and feel heard. Because when people feel seen, when they feel smart, when they feel valued, they stop resisting you, they start trusting you. They follow not because they have to, but because they want to. And that right there is the foundation of true leadership. It's not manipulation, it's emotional fluency, it's human intelligence. It's the wisdom of knowing that the most powerful person in the room isn't the one who speaks the most, but the one who makes others feel the most powerful. So the next time you feel the urge to prove your brilliance, pause. Take a breath. Because sometimes the highest form of intelligence is knowing when to stay quiet. If you're already intelligent, you don't need to prove it in every room you walk into. Not every situation is a stage. Not every moment is an opportunity to impress. In fact, the greatest moments of connection often come not from stepping forward, but from stepping back. When you choose not to speak immediately, when you wait, observe, and listen, something powerful begins to happen. Trust forms, not through force, but through presence. And in that stillness, vulnerability becomes visible. Not as weakness, but as an invitation. A silent opening that draws others closer to you, not because they have to, but because they feel safe doing so. And then, when you finally do speak, your words carry depth. They land heavier. They echo longer. Because they rise not from ego, but from clarity. That's the difference between noise and wisdom. One demands attention, the other earns it. This isn't a new idea. Eastern philosophy has honored this truth for centuries. The Tao Te Ching teaches, "The sage does not display his treasures. He wears plain clothes but carries gold in his heart." It's a reminder that true power often wears humility as its cloak. Socrates understood this as well. His famous line, "I know that I know nothing," was not an act of modesty. It was a doorway, a method, a way to open minds rather than close them. By appearing unsure, he inspired curiosity. And curiosity, when invited in gently, becomes the foundation of real growth. But Schopenhauer also left us with a deeper warning. Chasing validation is a trap. Many people live their entire lives through the eyes of others, measuring their worth by applause, approval, and external opinions. They constantly wonder, what do they think of me? But the real power begins when you ask instead, what do I know of myself? Because the moment you stop seeking applause is the moment you start living in freedom. Most opinions are fleeting. Most judgments are projections. They're often shaped by someone else's limitations, not your truth. Real strength? It moves silently. It's the quiet act of letting someone else shine, even when you were the one who prepared the stage. It's correcting a mistake without needing to take credit. It's stepping back and letting others believe they figured it out on their own. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is let someone else feel like they won. Not because you're hiding, but because you're elevating. It's not manipulation, it's maturity, it's mastery. The way a wise adult lets a child win a game, not for deception, but to build their confidence. Because the loudest person in the room, often the most insecure, the one who shouts their success, often unsure if it's real. As George Lucas said, the loudest person in the room is usually the weakest. And Schopenhauer would agree. Because authentic power doesn't perform, it doesn't need a spotlight, it creates one for others. True strength is quiet, it is still. And when it finally moves, it transforms everything around it. You might overlook the quiet one, the one who blends in, who listens more than they speak, but watch closely. Because when their moment comes and they finally rise to speak, the entire room will fall silent. And in that silence, everyone will realize the person they ignored was the one holding all the power, From the very beginning,